Okay, I'd like to call the personnel meeting on June 17th, 2025 at 4:30. Is there any courtesy of the floor? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Review the executive appointments, reappointments, Agency of the Aging Advisory Board, Children, Youth, and Family Advisory Board, Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board, Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley. Okay. The first is appointment for the Agency of the Aging Advisory Council. Appointment Cheryl Baker, 1504 North New Street, Bethlehem, PA, 18018. Ms. Baker is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027. Any comments? Okay, thank you. Next one will be an appointment for area of the Agency of Aging Advisory Council, Lori Metz, 3504 Broadway Road, Easton, PA, 18040. Ms. Metz will be considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Thank you. Reappointment of the Area Agency of Aging and Advisory Board. Reappointment Yolanda Braun, 1475 Hannaberry Lane, Easton, PA, 18040 zip. Ms. Braun is being considered for a 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Reappointment for the Area Agency of the Aging Advisory Board, Ginger DeBias, 11 Saratoga Court, Easton, PA, 18040 zip. Ms. DeBias is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st and end on June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Reappointment for Area Agency of the Aging Advisory Board, Gladys Marie Harris, 137 Pinehurst Lane, Easton, PA, 18042. Ms. Harris is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Thank you. Reappointment to Area Agency of the Aging Advisory Board, Tammy Camp.
I think you missed one. John DeFazio.
Yep, I'm sorry, I got it. Reappointment for Area Agency of the Aging Advisory Board, reappointment, John DeFazio, 1400 Main Street, Bath, PA, 18014. Mr. DeFazio is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Reappointment for Area Agency of Aging Advisory Board, Tammy Kemp, 704 Middletown Road, Penargil, PA, 18072. Ms. Kemp is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Reappointment for the Area Agency of Aging Advisory Board, Susan Sartoretto, 4161 Walter Road, Bethlehem, PA, 18020. Ms. Sartoretto is being considered for a 2-year term beginning July 1st, 2025 to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The following individuals be appointed to the Children, Youth, Family Advisory Board. Appointment, Deborah Gia, 13 Rosemont Court, Easton, PA, 18045. Ms. Gia is being considered for a 2-year term to begin June 19th, 2025, and to end May 1st, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Thank you. A reappointment to the Children, Youth, and Family Advisory Board, Michelle Hanna, 90 North Main Street, Bangor, PA, 18013. Ms. Hanna is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Thank you. The following is individual appointment to the Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board. Appointment is Penny Conway, 502 Delaware Avenue, Portland, PA, 18351. Ms. Conway is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Individual to be appointed to the Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board. Appointment Chelsea Stoffer, 1186 Middletown Road, Penarjo, PA, 18072. Ms. Stoffer is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, to end June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
A reappointment to the Drug and Alcohol Advisory Board, Nancy Dino, 4480 Bayward Street, Easton, PA, 18045. Ms. Dino is being considered for a 2-year term, begin July 1st, 2025, and to end on June 30th, 2027.
Motion to move forward.
Reappointment to the Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley. Reappointment is Lisa Nebeth, 4201 Bethman Road, Easton, PA, 18045. Ms. Nebeth is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027. This position will represent the B4 workforce category.
Motion to move forward.
Thank you. A reappointment to the Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley. A reappointment of Debbie Rice, 527 East Laurel Street, Bethlehem, PA, 18018. Ms. Rice is being considered for a 2-year term to begin July 1st, 2025, and to end June 30th, 2027. This position will represent E optional category.
Motion to move forward.
Thank you. That's all the appointments, reappointments. Next item for review is personnel request. First, we have the public defender.
I think you've had an opportunity to read some documents that outline what I'm requesting. So this is a social worker position. We worked pretty hard to get the grant that was awarded. And so now, as I understand it, this is a grant where we get reimbursed, right? In other words, we have to put the money out and they get reimbursed. This has been something I've been thinking about for a few years now, and I'm really grateful that we got this grant. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Don't know.
Any questions? Ms. Denuzio? Go ahead.
How do you expect to use this person in your office?
Yeah, I could probably use 2 social workers as opposed to just 1. So our primary responsibility, obviously, is to litigate criminal cases. But we spend a really good portion of our time handling social worker type issues. We function almost as a social worker a lot of the time. And I thought it might be helpful if I gave a few examples so you can understand it better, because I think unless you're really doing the job that we're doing, it's sort of hard to understand where that would all fit in. So, for example, there was a young man several months ago who applied for our services. He had just been released on a 302 commitment. Otherwise, he was fairly successful in life. He had an apartment, he was living alone, he, like I said, he was working. But he had a crisis, and because he was committed for so many weeks, by the time he was released, he was then locked out of his apartment. Landlord said, "You can't come back." I've been living there for 8 years. So now we're scrambling to try to find him some housing, because what will happen is that if he, starts living on the street, he's not reporting to pretrial services, so his bail conditions can be violated. And in fact, what did happen is because he wanted his stuff back, and you can't blame him for that, he goes back to the apartment. The landlord calls the police. Now he's got an interaction, overt behavior in the community. He gets picked up by the police, violates his bail, and he's right back in jail. so that was my case. I spent a good part of my time communicating with people from the prison, trying to set up a shelter through Haven House. I mean, it must have taken hours and hours of manpower. In the meantime, he's charged with a felony 1 burglary, so I'm trying to deal with that. So that's an example of where having a social worker as a point person to coordinate with the people in the prison, coordinate with family. We spent a lot of time on the phone with family, and believe it or not, a lot of defendants don't want you talking to their family, so we got to get cleared that first with the defendant. There was another case just recently, actually. He had an outstanding warrant out of Northampton County, but was up in New York. And through his New York attorney, I got in touch with him and spent a lot of time trying to coordinate how he would get back from New York to here to surrender on the warrant. That required talking to his sister in Harrisburg, his mother in Scranton. We're trying to find a way to get him some money so that he can get a bus to get back here or have him transported back here. Again, lots and lots of time on the phone. So what happens, we have a date where he's going to surrender. He gets picked up in the meantime. He spends 3 or 4 weeks in Rikers Island. They bring him back here. I'm at the prison now trying to talk to him, see how I can get him out of prison. This is a guy with no criminal record, by the way. He just got jammed up one time on a theft charge, didn't report. So now we've got him stuck in our prison, and now we're trying to scramble. I literally on the way here was on the phone with his sister from Harrisburg, saying, I need an address, I need a contact number, I need the name of the person, so I can get him on a bail list, so I can get him released. I mean, and those are just 2 examples. When you're carrying, a caseload of 1,300 cases, and you've got 16 lawyers, and at least half of their clients need those kind of resources, like, I need a person. There's just no question about it. Full-time, dug in. I actually have someone in mind. Chantel Mayo from Haven House has been around for a really, really long time. She knows everybody. She could jump right in, get to work, and then when mom calls from Scranton and says, my son got picked up and I need somebody to help me, and this is, how can I get this done? I send them to Chantel. So I can spend more time litigating the cases. We have a lot of serious cases, a lot of crime in Northampton County. Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's the source of the grant? Oh, I'm sorry,
It's a
The source?
PCCD grant?
PC.
PCCD grant. You're going to ask me what that stands for. It's like
No, I kinda-
Pennsylvania Crimes Commission on Delinquency, something like that. I've had my fill of acronyms, I got to be honest with you. Like,
That's
it's a
fine.
lot to keep up
But
with. So.
that's one I'm familiar with. And what's the duration?
It's a 2-year grant. And then I guess we'd see at the end of the grant whether we want to ask to have that position, permanent for our office.
That was my next question. What's your plan to incorporate it into your regular budget after the duration? Because
I mean-
obviously, you said you've been wanting this for a long time.
For a long time. I mean, I guess I would answer it this way and say, there's always going to be other grants out there. So I would always, of course, seek another grant to continue, and continue this position. But I guess that's something we'd have to talk about when we get to the end of the 2 years. I'm not really sure how that works. I did talk to Steve Barron a bit. I think we could try to find a way to get that position as a permanent position. And I think the paperwork that we gave you says that the total cost was like $83,000 or $86,000. I can grab my papers over here, with benefits and salary. I know the salary is $63,000.
And is it fully funded?
It's fully funded for the 2 years, yeah.
6,493 is a total.
Thank you, Mr. Giovanni. I was going to say, as somebody who works in the human services field during the course of my day job, I absolutely love this initiative, and I'm looking forward to voting for this. And you kind of answered my question initially, was do you have somebody in mind to really hit the ground running? Are there other counties that you're trying to emulate, perhaps, that have done this, that have seen some really good results as well?
I think this is becoming more commonplace. I mean, in other words, by that I mean to have a social worker on staff. I know there are a number of local counties who do. I've not had any direct discussions with other chiefs about how they've implemented it, but I'm confident that I can implement this and make this successful. That's not the question. The question is whether you'll approve it. I think, too, I've made a lot of really good changes to the department, and this is a long time coming. I think in the past, that maybe other chiefs weren't paying attention to it. I'm not being critical, I'm just saying, there's a clear need for a social worker in our office. It's just, it would free up a lot of the time that we spend, like I like to say, I think we're part lawyer, part life coach. Like, you got a lot of moving parts when you have an indigent client who already from the get-go doesn't have a lot of resources. So the lawyer becomes like the point person for everything, and we wind up doing a lot more than just the lawyering part of it, which is fine, but having somebody to do that who's dug in and fully committed to just doing that part of it would really be a huge benefit, not just to the office, but to the clients.
Yeah. And I think it's
know?
great you have somebody in mind already who's
Yeah.
going to be able to really hit the ground running and just start going full force.
Yeah, Chantel has been very involved with, well, she's worked for Haven House for a really long time. They provide housing and sometimes money just to get a bus ticket, like those
Yeah.
kind of things. She's also been part of our recovery court team. So so let me say it this way. If I need something I don't know how to get, I call Chantel, and Chantel knows how to get it. So I need her available to me full-time. Yeah,
Thank you.
yep.
Motion to move forward.
See you in the morning.
Right, okay, all right, well, thank you.
Okay, next will be review the personnel request for the sheriff department.
There is no person more ready to be sheriff of the county of Northampton than Chris Ziegler is. He's done an amazing job as acting sheriff since Sheriff Johnston retired. And this is Chris's second stint as being an acting sheriff. He didn't enjoy the first time. I think he's enjoyed the second time a little bit more. And I'm really looking forward to him being able to officially lead the department. There truly is no one more qualified to lead this department than Chris.
Motion move forward.
Forward, thank you. All right. Next will be discussion regarding amendments to the Children, Youth, and Family Division Advisory Board bylaws. Is there somebody to come forth on that? Lamont, do you know anything about that? About the bylaws for the Children and Youth Family Division, for the advisory board bylaws?
No, I don't. So my suggestion, my understanding is they're not time sensitive. They're pro forma. I don't think any great changes are being made. I think you can take them up and pass them without any earth-shattering events occurring. And then, you know, the next time there's a human services meeting and we actually have someone from human services here with us, you can ask them about them. I think that's probably the best way to go.
Thank you. Should we move it forward?
Table it till Human Services. Unless somebody can come tomorrow. I'm sure that the changes are probably nothing, but, you know, if somebody can just come and tell us what they are.
Madam President, if
I will make sure somebody can be here tomorrow to answer the
Thanks.
questions.
I
You're
mean,
welcome.
if it needs to be done in a timely way, if they
Yeah.
could just, I'm sure it's like
Someone will be here,
nothing, but.
prepared to discuss it. Thank you. I'm sorry no one was tonight.
I used to serve on this advisory board, and in terms of looking all of this over, it does seem like it's bylaws that have been kind of on the books here for a little while, and that they just maybe have a couple little things here or there that have maybe been changed, but not necessarily earth-shattering at this point, so, yeah.
That being said, there's nothing else. Is there any other things for personnel? Are there any agenda? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
With that, we'll open the, call the Finance Committee meeting to order. We'll start with courtesy of the floor. Anybody wish to address the committee? If not, then we'll move right into the controllers' reports.
I'm super excited to be here today. I apologize in advance for my voice. A little under the weather, but I'm still here, okay? So the first order of business is we're going to get through the routine audits first. Our first audit was an AUP cash collection for court administration. The scope of the audit was an agreed-upon procedure engagement. It was conducted in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards, and the engagement was requested by the accounting executive for the period January 1st, 2024 through August 31st, 2024. Key findings. The segregation of duties, we found that there were adequate segregation of duties, and we observed this in the assignment of cash collection responsibilities. Deposit timeliness and accuracy, a sample of 5 receipts was reviewed. Documentation was insufficient to confirm same-day deposits, cash check mix, agreed to validated deposit slips, and all deposits were reviewed by individuals other than the preparers. For bank account responsibilities, court administration does not maintain bank accounts or perform bank reconciliations. The staff are not involved in check writing or disbursements. In summary, the procedures performed were appropriate for the engagement's intended purpose. I signed it. Mark Diliberto completed the audit. For our second audit, we have, cash collection for fiscal affairs, miscellaneous revenue.
Can I just stop you?
Sure.
You said Mark did it, but somebody else's name is on it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It says Florina.
What?
Am I looking at the right one?
I was looking at, I'm sorry.
Are you
Mark
Mark? You were
did.
like, I didn't do it.
I'm
You
really
made it look
sorry.
like I didn't do that. So for the record, it was Florina.
It was Florina Tang, sorry.
Sorry, John, I just.
Doing great. Doing great. Fiscal affairs. Got it. Mark did this one. Thank you. And that was an agreed-upon procedure. The engagement was conducted in accordance, again, with generally accepted government auditing standards to assess internal controls over cash collections for the Department of Fiscal Affairs, covering the period ending September 30th, 2024. In the segregation of duties, not all segregation controls were adequate. 3 deposits lacked reviewer initials and dates, limiting accountability. For deposit timeliness and accuracy, cash check breakdowns agreed with revenue register receipts. 2 assessment receipts were deposited on the same day, 1 deposited the next day. 2 GIS receipts lacked sufficient documentation to confirm deposit timing. Bank account responsibilities. Divisions reviewed do not maintain bank accounts or perform reconciliations. The conclusion is that the procedures performed were appropriate for the engagement's intended purpose. I signed it, and again, Mark did it. Thank you, Mark Diliberto. The next audit will be a hotel room rental tax for license number 152, which is View Inn Suites, Bethlehem. Oh, actually it's not. It is 133 Marriott Courtyard. For the time period January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2023. Okay. Okay, the audit scope is the agreed-upon procedures. Engagement was conducted in accordance with generally accepted government auditing standards, and the engagement was for hotel tax remittance for the courtyard, again for January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2023. For remittance form review, the latest version of the form used and was completed accurately. All tax calculations were correct. Timely submission, there was a timely submission in all but 1 month, January 2023, for which no late fee was assessed. Exemption reports missing for 21 of 24 months where exemptions were claimed. In the accounting process, an adequate understanding of the operations accounting system was obtained. For remittance verification, operator paid the higher of tax due or collected in 23 of 24 months. In exemption testing, 26 of 38 tested exemptions were valid. 11 were invalid due to missing or incomplete certificates, and all December 2023 exemptions were unsupported and deemed invalid. The tax owed by this operator was $1,974.61 in unpaid hotel room rental tax. And again, this one was done by Florina Tang and signed by myself. Now, the last hotel room rental tax is for license 152, View Inn Suites, Bethlehem. The reporting period of which is January 1st through December 31st, 2023. January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023. The agreed-upon procedures engagement, again, was conducted with generally accepted government auditing standards. In the key findings, you'll see the remittance form review, the latest remittance form used in all months. 20 of 24 months were completed for lacked tax collected figures. Calculations were accurate in 22 of 24 months. 3 reports were submitted late and only 1 incurred a late fee. September 2022 remittance was not received. The operator used a single form for both permanent and non-permanent exemptions. Forms were missing in 3 of 7 months with exemptions. In the accounting process, sufficient understanding obtained to evaluate remittance accuracy. Remittance verification, the operator paid the higher of tax due or collected in 18 of 24 months. In the exemption testing, of 8 exemptions tested, 3 were invalid due to refunded stays, 4 lacked proper documentation. An operator did not refund first month's tax for valid permanent residents, violating county rules. The tax owed was a total of $9,720.59. And this one, again, was completed by Florina Tang. Thank you.
Any questions on the hotel tax audits so far? No? Okay. Go ahead.
And now, this is really the moment you've all been waiting for. It is the county council requested Graysdale retention bonus AUP final report. I would like a moment to introduce my staff that is here today with me. We have, and I'm sure you all know, Mark Arend, who is the deputy controller. We have Stacy Duke, who is our senior lead auditor, thank you, and Mark Diliberto, who is an auditor too. Stephanie J. Stewart is here, thank you. She is representing Steve Godzuzian's office. He is my solicitor. You'll notice that I have all of us listed on this wonderful slide that I wish could be projected up there, but apparently I was a little late due to my obvious impairment. Sorry. Okay. I also want to thank my staff, because given all that we had to complete, with our statutory and contractual obligations with this year-end preparation for Mayor Dussel. I'm really proud that they shifted things around and were able to get things done ahead of schedule. We delivered our draft report on May 28th. Okay. So, did I hear something? Is there someone on the phone?
Yeah, I'm on the phone, but I'm on mute.
Listen, it's
I'm
okay.
on the phone, but I'm on mute. I'm on mute.
Very good. Moving on to the second slide on the first page. We're happy to release the results of our independent internal audit examining the use of American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funds for retention bonuses paid to employees at Graysdale, the county-owned nursing facility, as authorized by County Council in Resolution Number 70-2022. The audit covered the period from 2022 through April 13th, 2025, and focused on ensuring that the distribution of these funds complied with the resolution and relevant labor agreements. You can flip your page to the third slide. To summarize, an agreed-upon procedure audit is limited to the agreed-upon procedures. County Council determined in a meeting with myself, Mark Arend, Mark Diliberto, and Stacy Duke, as well as Ms. Vargo Hefner and Mr. Giovanni and Mr. Spadoni on April 11th. They agreed that we hashed out the terms of the procedures that would be adequate for the purposes of this audit. And slide 3 on page 2 of your handout shows the final procedures that were agreed upon at the aforementioned meeting and the engagement letter that was signed on April 14th. And you'll notice that they're just a tad different than the resolution that was passed, okay? But not extremely different. Slide 4, if you go down, just to summarize that, our office is an independent auditing body that's limited to the scope of the audit as defined by the agreed-upon procedures. Graysdale's management is in charge of how the ARPA money was distributed. The steps taken to check this were agreed upon by the people mentioned in the report, and because of that, we're not assigning a value judgment or opinion to say that these steps were either good or bad, or that they were sufficient, or that they would be sufficient for other reasons or uses beyond what we agreed upon in the scope of the audit. Okay? So procedure 1 was a full analysis of monies set aside for retention bonuses from the American Rescue Plan Act for all employees of Graysdale, barring the Graysdale Administrator, Director of Nursing, and the Assistant Director of Nursing. So we took a sample of 40 employees that were tested to verify the accuracy of the retention bonus payments, and it was determined that each employee received the correct number and amount of retention bonus payments, $2,500 annually. Any variations were due to the timing of employment or anniversaries or employment status changes, like if somebody left or switched jobs. For example, some employees received part of their bonus in 1 year and the remainder in the next, and depending on when they reached their employment anniversary. There was one instance where an employee received a $5,000 payment in 2024, which was a catch-up for a missing prior year payment, but it was not an overpayment. In our findings between 2022 and April 2025, Northampton County paid out a total of $2,360,891.18 in retention bonuses to union and career service employees at Graysdale. Of this amount, $2,204,441.08 was dispersed from 2022 through 2024, and $156,450.10 was paid out in 2025 as of April 13th pay period. The next procedure was to review and determine if policies and procedures, MOUs, and/or contracts that governed the payment or retention bonuses existed. The audit also confirmed that no retention bonuses were paid to per diem employees. The Graysdale Administrator, Director of Nursing, or Assistant Director of Nursing, in accordance with County Council's 2022 resolution. The payment of retention bonuses was governed by union contracts for the AFSCME and Steel Workers unions, which was amended to include or sunset retention bonus provisions. While there was no formal written policy for career service employees, the audit found that they received bonuses consistent with the union terms. And you'll see that here. In slide 7. The third procedure was to determine if any changes were made to the original policies and procedures, MOUs, and contracts while the retention bonus program was in effect. The retention bonus program ended at different times for different employees, depending on the contract negotiations. The steelworkers' bonuses ended on December 31st, 2023. And while AFSCME residual union employees remain eligible through December 31st, 2025, AFSCME Graysdale union employees hired in 2024 or earlier are eligible for 2025 payments. Career service employees were notified in early 2025 that retention bonuses to them would cease due to the exhaustion of ARPA funds. Procedure 4, determine if the retention bonus program ended for all eligible employees at the same time, and if not, when and under what circumstances the retention bonus program ended for each group of employees. The audit found that the total of $2,360,891.18 in retention bonuses was paid out to all eligible union and career service employees at Graysdale during the review period. Specifically, $2,204,441.08 was dispersed through 2022 through 2024, and an additional, as I mentioned, $156,450.10 was paid in 2025. You can see under Procedure 4 on what would be slide number 8 that these bonuses had different sunset periods. And those corresponded to the MOUs and the contracts that were signed by each union. Procedure 5 was to determine if the career service and union Graysdale employees participated in the same manner in the retention bonus program as the Graysdale union employees. Our findings were that while the retention bonus programs were still active for the Graysdale career service employees, they participated in the same manner as the Graysdale union employees. And so you could see Exhibit 1, which is also in, this is in the actual audit. So in Exhibit 1, you'll see that these are the amounts that have been paid out in 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025 to each individual category, and then the total that was paid out to each individual category. You'll also see on this little timeline when and where certain pivotal MOU changes or contractual changes were made, and it shows you sort of like the trajectory of what happened. And so, we move on. The next procedure was to identify all monies from resolution number 70-2022 that remain or were utilized for any other purpose whatsoever. Without tracking of the balance of the $5 million allocated to Graysdale retention bonuses by the county council's resolution, there is no way to specifically determine what the money was used for at Graysdale besides what was indicated by the previous management, and that was operational expenses and the care of residents. The audit found that although $5 million was designated for retention bonuses, only a portion of that money was paid out specifically for retention bonuses. The remainder of the ARPA funds, while allocated to Graysdale, could not specifically be tracked once transferred to Graysdale in 2023 and were commingled with other funds. The Controller's Office could not determine the exact Graysdale expenses paid with those ARPA funds after they were combined with other Graysdale resources. And because the management responsible for that decision is no longer in that position, we cannot determine why the money was not tracked in a more transparent way. You can see here in this illustration a summary of what happened. You have a bucket of money, which is the ARPA Recovery Fund, right? You have the Graysdale General Fund. If you dump the ARPA money into the Graysdale money, and then you spend all that money down, then all the ARPA money, if spent down after it's put in, is all gone, right? And so that's exactly what happened. The ARPA money was spent down at the end of 2023. So, in summary, the audit determined that all ARPA funds designated for retention bonuses through the council resolution were transferred to the Graysdale Fund by the end of 2023. These funds were not tracked separately from other county contributions once transferred and were fully expended on Graysdale operations. As a result, the Controller's Office could not determine, again, the exact Graysdale expenses paid with the ARPA funds after they were commingled. And without the ability to track, there is no way to specifically determine what the money was used for, except for operational expenses and care of the residents. But our audit confirmed that the retention bonuses that were paid out were paid accurately and were paid to all eligible employee groups receiving payments according to the established rules, with only minor issues related to timing and administrative delays, which were quickly corrected. We also found that no ineligible personnel, such as per diem staff or senior administrators, received bonuses. And additionally, the county properly amended union contracts to reflect changes in the retention bonus program, and affected career service employees were notified of the program's end in a timely manner. That is the end of my report.
Questions for the controller?
Or any of my staff who are here today.
Can I have a question?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ken. Ron, sorry.
How dare you? It's not Ken.
Sorry.
Oh, all right, my question is, I realize that this was not a performance audit.
Right.
This was strictly fiscal. Having said that, though, performance audits have been done.
It was a
for
procedural
other
audit.
budget- Sorry, what?
It was a procedural audit, an agreed
Okay,
upon
but-
procedure audit. So it
right,
was neither
let me
performance
finish my
nor
question.
financial.
Okay, I agree with you.
Okay.
But controllers have done both, have done different kinds of audits, and I agree with what you did. That being said, when we get audits, like, for example, they audit hotels or they audit this or that, oftentimes they say, here's what we found, here's a recommendation going forward. It sounds to me like, I agree, all the money was spent at Graysdale. I'm beyond that. That's what happened. But there was some confusion in how we account for that ARPA money, because it's just, as you said, dumped into the bucket. Going forward, would a recommendation be, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know in another pandemic. We don't know anything about anything going forward. We may get a dump of money like this again. I want to prevent something like this from happening again, because clearly, despite the infamous June meeting, and I've looked at that myself, and I think a reasonable person could have been at that meeting and not assumed that took care of the bonuses and that everybody was clear. I wasn't clear, and I know others weren't. And I have a lot of experience with the county's finances. So I guess the question would be, would it be helpful if there is outside funds brought in and specified for a specific purpose, and in the future, they be accounted for separately in their own line item, so that something like this wouldn't happen again? Would that be a reasonable recommendation from the controller?
I would say that on an AUP, as I stated in the beginning, we cannot make any recommendations. That's not what was in the scope of the audit. If you determine that the remedy would be putting money into a restricted account, that's on you. But that is
Well,
not
we make the
what we are
final-
recommending, because we are not allowed to make a recommendation. That is not
You're not?
in our scope of work and not part of what we are able to do through an AUP.
AUP meaning?
It would be best, it would be best if fiscal would respond to any questions about how the money could be tracked or was tracked, or anything having to do or related to fiscal's accounting of the ARPA funds. The only thing that we can say is that the ARPA funds were transferred. They were transferred to the Graysdale account, and they were spent down at the end of 2023. And
Okay.
still in 2024, I know you don't have the sheet in front of you, there were retention
All right.
bonuses that were continued to be paid. It just wasn't with ARPA money, specifically.
All right, and bear with me just for a second. I'm just trying, I want to understand the process, because some of it sounds new to me. So when we get different audits on things, generally speaking, they'll say, oh, here is the money that went into the commissary fund at the prison. And they found that this we couldn't track this. Our recommendation to, let's say, fiscal would be,
internal control.
you should account for special funds like these separately. We've gotten those recommendations for years and years and years. But you're saying in this specific case, you're not allowed to make a recommendation? I know fiscal,
Yeah.
you don't control what they do. Absolutely. It's not on you. I'm not putting it on you.
Thanks.
I'm just asking if a recommendation was warranted on how they could improve the process.
I do understand that the question you're asking. I'm going to allow Stacy Duke to respond to that, because
Okay,
I'm having a hard time talking.
that's fine. No, and I'm not trying to badger you. I'm sincerely interested going forward. I'm not looking backward, but I'm going forward. This was a pandemic, so nobody who anticipated that. But this became, the money went into the big bucket, as you said, and you're right. I agree. I'm just wondering, and now we have this issue, and I'm just wondering if something similar happens, and it's up to fiscal then to fix or to do it or whatever. But is there a recommendation on how we might be able to avoid this? And I just thought that could be part of an audit. You're not telling them what to do. You're just making a recommendation, like after what you saw, how it could be handled. That's all. But I'd be happy to hear from anybody.
Hey, Ron. Stacy Duke, Senior Lead Auditor.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi. Yes, so we are addressing what audit we have performed for this specific audit, which was an agreed-upon procedures audit. Even prior, long time ago, years, you used to be able to do a finding and a recommendation with an AUP audit, but the standards have changed and you cannot do a recommendation. All that can be listed is what we found, the facts of the audit, and address every specific objective and what we have found, and we cannot make a recommendation. We can't even do conclusions in our work papers on this type of audit. We have done for you
Stacy,
guys,
let
I
me
have,
ask you,
okay, go ahead, sorry.
may I interject? And I apologize. Being from Human Services, I'm familiar with acronyms. We live by acronyms. But what does AUP stand for?
Agreed upon procedures?
Oh, okay, that's pretty basic. It sounds very formal, and fair enough. Agreed upon procedures. So when the procedures were agreed upon, it was agreed that there would be no recommendations made.
It was just that there's objectives, that we will have all of our findings and answers included into the audit. There is nothing left out of an agreed upon procedures. It doesn't matter if it's significant, if it's minor, all findings have to be listed into an agreed upon procedures audit. We can't decide if it's material, immaterial, they all have to be listed within an agreed upon procedures audit.
So that's why this one is different than, let's say, a hotel tax or commissary fund or many of the others that are done.
Well, hotel tax actually is an agreed upon procedures audit also. We determined all of our factors of objectives with the hotels, and we only test them, and we only decide, and we only include the findings for that audit also. We also have performance audits, which we have done other audits on. I know we've done some agreed upon procedure audits once requested. I think the COS audit was an agreed upon procedures. There might have been some back that were performance audits from you guys that were requests that we have done in our office. So there can be performance. A performance would have your finding, your observation, and it would also include your recommendation, and then it would have a management's comment on top of that.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I guess that's what I'm describing, a performance audit. Because, even I requested at times when I was director to have the auditor come in, and he sent somebody to do an audit on what we had with funds and things. So, and made recommendations. So I see what you're saying, and if you want something like that, you've got to be very careful with your language when you're setting up the AUPs, right?
Yes, yes. And that's why we did meet with Tom and Lori, and we decided those objectives and where we were going to go from there.
All right, you clarified it for me. Thank you all very much.
You're very welcome.
That's it for me.
Does anybody else have anything?
Any other questions from anybody? Lori?
I have a question if no one's raising their hand, John.
We'll let John.
Go ahead, John.
Mr. Rensky, would you consider the proper procedures were followed by the administration and by the Graysdale administration on how this money was handled?
We cannot make an opinion on that. That is not part of the scope of the procedures that we agreed upon. So
So the only
that's
two
what
things that we
she
really
just,
asked for were like how the money was spent and how much is left. The only thing you can't tell us how the money was spent, though, right?
we did say how the money was spent. I
You said it
mean,
was put
not
all into one big
exactly
fund, you
after
don't
it
know.
was gone, after it went to the Graysdale Fund, but you asked us where the
That's what
ARPA
we
money
wanna know,
went.
though. I want to know what it was spent on.
That's a question for fiscal, then.
And then I guess my next question is, we're hearing conflicting reports. We're hearing that Graysdale is solvent, and we're also hearing that $2.7 million was spent on operationals because apparently it needed it, because otherwise that money would still be there for the bonuses. So I guess which one's true? Where does this money come from next year? That's why we had an audit done so we can know how was this money spent, how do we not know about it, and what was it spent on? I still really haven't heard that answer. Is that you say operations in the care of the patients, but that's very vague.
That was the statement made by management in the email that was given to the employees. That is all we have to go on. So we just report the facts as findings.
Those aren't facts. That's an email. I wanted to know
That's
what
a
the money
fact.
said. Did we spend more money on? Did we spend more money on pens and paper? Did we spend more money on calculators? Did we spend more money on overtime? There has to be $2.7 million spent in addition to what we spent the year before. Would that not make the most sense? And then that's where the audit comes into play, where you dig through the numbers and say where we spent more and what was it on. And I still haven't heard that answer yet.
Is this what you're looking for? This thing?
So John, this would all be out of the scope of this audit. We were supposed to prove, was the $5 million spent on retention bonuses? And if not, where was it spent? Our audit
That's the
proved,
answer I want to hear.
our audit proved that $2.3 million was spent on retention bonuses, and the remainder of the money was used for operating expenses. Once county
That's the answer I'm
contributions,
not satisfied with, Ms. Duke.
once county contributions and your ARPA money got commingled, imagine if all of you guys gave me money, okay? You all gave me a dollar bill. Don't look at it. Don't point at which number's on it. You all gave me money, and I took all your money, and I said, here's my expenses I have to pay. I have to pay the water bill. I have to pay the electric bill. I have to pay the garbage bill. I took some of your money, and I paid this bill, this bill, this bill. How would I know whose dollar actually went to the electric, actually went to this, actually went to the garbage, without knowing exactly where a track of files saying this actually paid salaries, program operating
Ms. Duke,
costs?
the answer is simple in my eyes. That's what bookkeeping is for. You know, if I get audited and the IRS comes in to make sure that the money I paid in taxes is adequate to the money I brought in revenues, they're going to go through every line, and then I'm going to write things off. And I'm going to say, well, I spent this on this. This is a write-off. Every dollar should be able to be accountable. That's what accounting is. I don't understand. I feel like we're asking a very simple question. And I understand I might be, you know, demanding an answer that you might not have at the moment, but you can't tell me that that answer can't be found. It just might take a little bit more work.
I'm not sure how you could say it takes a little more work. I can prove that your fund balance, as stated in this report, your fund balance of Graysdale was all used in 2023 for operating expenses. Which part was the county contribution? Which part was the ARPA fund? You cannot dive down to each single expense and bill without somebody actually saying whose dollar went where. That would be like me taking your dollar, John's dollar, Kelly's dollar, paying $2 on a bill and saying which one of your dollars actually paid that bill. We know it all
Well,
went to
I would
operating
say-
expenses, and which operating, that as a whole, all those operating expenses were paid between county funds, the fund balance, and the ARPA money that was left. It cannot be dived right down to each single penny of which expense without having somebody saying this was ARPA money, this was county contribution. And unfortunately, there was no
Why was- I guess that's
documentation
my-
to prove
why-
that.
Why don't we do that? Isn't that what we appropriate funds for, so they're appropriated?
That would be something for fiscal or the accountants at
Is
Graysdale
fiscal in the room?
to determine why they did not do it that way.
Is fiscal in the room? Is Mr. Barron in the
You're
room?
going to have to ask Steve tomorrow. They're not here. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I have no more questions because I'm not getting any real answers here. I want to know, this is not a
You
small
are
amount of
getting
money.
real answers, you're just not getting the ones that you really want.
Where was the money spent?
You can
Mr.
look
Rinsky?
in the budget.
Operations is, how big is the line item for operations at Graysdale?
Which
Which line
Tens of
item?
millions of dollars. You're telling me it's just a big bucket?
A general fund is generally a big bucket.
No. Anybody that has done accounting knows that if I'm spending money, I want to make sure I'm not spending money out of the wrong buckets. If I got bills to pay in bucket B, but I spent all that money, I can't just pull from bucket A because I won't know if I have a problem. If my money runs out of bucket B, it's
That
because
would be
I
a
know I have a
different
cash flow
bucket.
problem. And right now we have a cash flow problem, but we don't know how to fix it because we're not getting any direct answers. We're getting a runaround. So I understand how this is going to work. I see what's happening. I don't have any more questions, but I'm very unsatisfied with what I'm getting as far as an answer. Because right now, like Mr. Heckman asked, how do we prevent this from happening again? We still don't know because we don't even know where the money went.
I just want to say that we delivered exactly what was requested of us. And we
Nope.
granted that in the time frame that was requested. And we were
No,
ahead
we
of
requested
schedule.
sooner. You said you needed
This
more time,
is
so we
what
gave you more time.
the county council asked for, an agreed upon procedures audit, the scope of which was defined in an engagement with Ms. Vargo Hefner, Mr. Spadoni, and Mr. Giovanni. We answered every question that was in that procedure. If you have
two
more
quick questions
questions,
for you right now.
you
I
are
have two
going
right
to
now.
want to ask fiscal and go
I have
ahead
two
and
questions
look
for
at your
you.
2023, 2024,
Mr. Rinsky.
2025
Mr.
budgets. All the answers are in
Mr. Rinsky.
numbers.
Mr. Rinsky, I have two quick questions for you.
Okay.
When you asked for more time, do we grant it to you?
Yes, we did it.
Okay. My second question. When I said, where was the money spent, and you say at Graysdale, do you think we needed an audit to answer that question?
You could say it
Isn't
was
it in the
spent in
CFO?
salaries, it was spent in workers' compensation, it was spent
How much?
miscellaneous.
How much of each? We don't. That's,
Okay.
I want details.
I just want to say, if you were here, I could hold up this piece of paper. You're not here. This piece of paper is the balance sheet and budget to actual by fund with encumbrances as of 12/31/2023. The head title is Graysdale Nursing Home. There are many line items on this page. Am I correct? Many line items with numbers after them. Which column did the ARPA funds come out of?
That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, we can't tell because they're commingled. The dollars were not in a restricted account. They went to the Graysdale Fund that expends cash in all of these categories from that fund.
Hey, John,
And
do you have
that
any-
is the
John, do you
best
have
way
any
I
other
can
questions? Do you
understand.
have any other specific questions? We're kind of going around in circles here, so I would just want to move this forward.
Nope, I'm all done. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have questions for the controller? Jeff? Well, Lori, you had, no. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. It's not necessarily a question, but I think Mr. Heckman has made a very good point. Hypothetically speaking, what happens 25, 30, 50 years down the road, maybe there's another pandemic. Maybe there's a federal administration that decides that they are going to give out tons of money to various communities and counties throughout the United States, Northampton County being one of them. And how can we, as a council, better govern that in the future? So, Mr. Heckman, I think you did raise a very good point, and perhaps looking at some ideas and potential procedures for this council down the road may not be a bad idea for us, and may not be a bad idea for this committee to look at some point down the road. We have no idea what's going to happen. If we could put some procedures in place to make sure that hiccups may not happen as we're progressing in the future, perhaps that's something that we should do. I think Mr. Heckman made a very valid point.
Anybody else
Thank
have
you.
questions for? Lori, go ahead.
Do you have questions you
Yeah,
want
I
to
do.
I don't want to step on yours. Can I speak with Mr. Diliberto? And you could stay too if you want to help him, because you were at the meeting too, but you could have a drink. I I'm not going to try to yell at you or slay you in any way. I just have questions about the actual work that you did and how you started and like the practice of what you did. So I believe in our meeting, when we first talked about it, you said you had access to all the data that we would need. You'd have access to all the financial records, et cetera. So what sources did you use to get this information?
We printed various reports from the ERP system, One Solution, like that balance sheet that you saw earlier. Also, payroll records, like to aggregate time card information to see how much was coded to retention bonuses, and that's how we determined that number. We also talked with various employees in Graysdale and Fiscal Affairs to get information like the contracts and how they track it. Yeah.
Process. We determined with HR their process of who they gave, what they gave to, how they included the that they went with the contracts. Also, that non-union was handled in the same manner as all the other MOUs. We did we did look at the balance sheet. We did see all the expenses are there, that the money was commingled. We did determine there was a fund balance as of 2022, that the fund balance was then added to in 2023 with the money from the ARPA retentions, and then that at the end of the year, the 2023 fund balance was dissipated and depleted, and there was no money left from any of that money that was transferred over. But also that there was that county contribution, and therefore we could not deem which exact expense. We did contact Graysdale to see if they had any tracking spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets to show which actual expenditure was paid, and they said they did not have, as stated in the report, there was no tracking system. I'm not really sure how you can get a tracking system out of somebody who did not track it.
And you're saying that that group you asked was the Graysdale
Yep,
financial staff?
we talked to Graysdale accountants, we talked to their lead accountant, at people over at Graysdale. We didn't just go by what we found in One Solution.
So it wasn't just the fiscal in this building, it was
Nope,
theirs too?
We also talked to Graysdale, and their, you talked to administration, Michelle? No, not
Larry.
Michelle, Larry.
Yes.
We spoke with Larry Erickson.
And Danielle
Yes, from HR.
from HR.
So given that this is federal money, did you do any exploration of the federal report that was filed, or did you track any of that side of?
So it was determined that the ARPA funds, all you had to prove for the federal ARPA funds was that we took a revenue loss for that money. And that Steve did report that. I know it came in as a finding, I think, in 2023, but he fixed the report. It only had to be proved to the federal for this ARPA, and you can speak with fiscal, but they only had to prove that there was a revenue loss for us to use the money.
So I don't want to misquote you. You're saying that you talked to Steve, and that's what Steve said, but you didn't see the federal funds, or do you have copies of the federal reporting? Or the thing that said where we're changed, because when we put in the original plan was 5 million for bonuses, and it didn't say and revenue. Revenue loss was later, so that had to be reported. And again, this has nothing to do with you. I'm just asking if you saw this data as
Oh,
part
I'm
of
talking
your-
about the ARPA federal funding requirements as a federal requirement is what we stated in our audit.
I understand that, but when you were looking, I'm back at the looking, is there a copy of the reports? Is there a copy? Because I have a copy here of what we filed to the feds. It's not like public record. But I don't see where we did the letter saying, oops, this is how much, and this is the, like, my understanding is you have to file a report to them, and you can't just say, oops, these are the funds. You have to say what it is. Not you, our fiscal. So did you see any of that in your audit?
It's not in the
Wait, could you say that for the mic? Doesn't translate on the mic. But you said you could look at all the data, and the data was not in there to say that it was changed. You just said Mr. Barron said that, right? Or did you see it?
Brandon, he had a spreadsheet that he provided to us
So there's,
to prove there was a revenue loss.
but the documentation to the federal government was not,
So
I'm
when
just
you
asking.
move, when you move from what we were and we saw, when you move that 5 million to the Graysdale, you already accounted for salaries for it to be used on those retention bonuses. So you're now proving a revenue loss, right?
No,
Because you have to pay that, and we don't have
this was
money.
specifically stated that it would be retention bonuses on the report to the federal government. And so in order to change that money, we have to put in a form to the federal government saying, here's how we're changing it, and we're claiming the loss, and here's where we want to move this money from A to B. You have to ask them to move it. You can't just say, we're gonna. Not you, this is not you. I'm just asking if you saw the paper or you tracked any of the documentation.
We had Brandon's spreadsheet that showed retention bonuses, 5 million. We had the daycare, all of that. Obviously, in our scope was only that the 5 million was looked at retention-wise.
And I just wanted to know if you saw any of that
And
documentation.
there was a thing, and we did speak to Brandon, that we are within our requirements of actual federal reporting requirements.
Do you think that the federal government will audit these funds?
I think we already had to send in a report, if I'm correct. You will talk to Steve Barron tomorrow. He'll be here. Because he had to send that in. Because we already are, like, I do the CFA audit, so I can tell you that those ARPA funds already have been proved as a revenue loss for all of it. So that would be a question, though, for Steve. That's like off record of this audit. I'm just saying I do CFA, so.
So, this is just so hard to ask. You said that there was no way to tell. But I asked a question in a budget hearing, and again, this is not what you could see, but I know I asked, and I asked specifically about a budget item, and somebody said, is this money the money designated for the bonuses? And we were told yes. So, like, when you could see all the items, like, this was apparently in an HR section of the Graysdale budget, and it was a certain amount of money. We said, is that for the budget? And we were told yes. So there was nothing in the budgets that you saw that specifically tagged it as retention bonuses. It wouldn't have been a 5 million, it would have been over the years, because again, that 5 million wasn't to be given in 1 year, it was to be given over a period of time. And I believe I asked it last year and said, oh, is this the amount that's left for the bonuses? And someone said, yes, it was. And we can go back and look at the tape, but they said, yeah. I know, again, that's not on paper, but you didn't see anything in that designated a category that says retention bonuses Graysdale under any of the HR funds in that
I mean,
department.
under the Graysdale funds, no.
Okay.
There's nothing that can say. Yeah, once it went to Graysdale.
But it should be in because we get their budget every year and it says.
But you're.
Did not have a restricted fund that said Graysdale retention.
Just retention. It's all one Graysdale Special Revenue Fund balance sheet, where you have all your multiple.
ARPA recovery fund.
I'll let you handle that, John.
There was an ARPA recovery fund,
Please.
which you actually had, and this is, again, for fiscal, this is not in my scope. There is an ARPA recovery fund that had all the ARPA money put into that fund.
But that's what was shown in our county funds. But the federal reporting fund had it
So-
all delineated by everything that we did on our,
So what we checked is
ordinances.
that the 5 million was moved out of that and moved into the Graysdale Fund
Right.
for retention.
but you
bonuses.
didn't do that federal piece. You just you kept to our county review.
Or
But
the
that-
5 million.
Yeah, that wasn't part of the scope.
Otherwise,
the
the
audit.
scope would be the full ARPA money.
Yeah. That's a different
We
audit.
were only auditing the 5 million.
Well, no, but here's the dilemma. The 5 million is ARPA money, so it's like of a dual nature. It's like, where did the money go once it left us to them? But it's still ARPA federal money. It's also under DHS funding, so there's 3 different ways of reporting for this money. And so I think that's why I wanted to ask, without getting too far in the money weeds, did you look at
You're
all
in it.
3 of those? Well, but it's true, right? Because that's the problem. It wasn't accounted for. DHS wants a certain reporting standard, the county has its own, and
I would
feds have their
recommend
own.
honestly talking to fiscal on this, because fiscal is going to deem all the federal regulations as the whole ARPA, more so than just the 5 million.
Yes.
What we read is that we have to prove to federal that we had a revenue loss. That's all you had to prove to use that money. And there was a revenue loss, because in 2023, our revenue definitely was not, and that's how we could prove that the fund balance was used. Because in 2023, when you go and look at what Mark had stated, I'm looking though for revenue versus expenditures. It's on this page.
There was
So how Mark could-
12.7 million in the fund balance that was drained, and then another 3.4 million moved in from the outside.
So you had revenue of 88 million in 2023, but you had expenditures of 116 million. So we had a county contribution which had the rest of that ARPA money moved in. At the end, what we could see was we had a fund balance of 12,862, and our net loss was 12,682. That deemed all that money that was spent over for the retention bonuses was used for the revenue loss in the fund. Brandon or Steve would be best to determine all of the federal regulations.
And again, I'm not asking, I really want to
know,
be
I'm just
very
trying to s-
clear. I'm not indicting, I'm just asking if you saw if
Yeah,
you're
so I'm just letting you know
because the
what
way
we
you look
saw.
at things is much less emotionally than I might look at things. I
No,
might be like,
so I
where is
wanted
it?
to
You're
make
like
sure-
numbers, right?
And I do know it has come up one time that the federal reporting wasn't correct. So I did speak with Brandon on that also. And it is correct, the way they were, that's like like it got put in, but then Steve and them corrected it with the federal.
But you never saw the form per se. You could speak into the mic. I'm asking
We did
you, why
not
you let them
actually
talk for you?
pull the federal form. We did pull Brandon's spreadsheets just to show that the 5 million was marked for retention
Scared your
bonuses.
guy. He's like hiding behind, don't hide behind the
You know,
paper.
he's a good guy.
I know he is. He did the
We're
report. I'm
trying to,
very-
we're trying to
very-
get him outspoken.
Very appreciative of that. No one is, you did your job. I said this 2 weeks ago. No one's here to indict. You did what we asked.
sure we give you all the correct information.
Well, I have another question. I could wait till you're done asking yours.
No, go right ahead, continue.
You're the auditor for the county. You're the controller. Do you have any thoughts about next steps on this? You as the controller don't have to speak to this specifically, but you get to do any audit you want without me asking you. No,
I do
absolutely.
not
And I
wanna
mean, I'm
misstep.
not just asking, you've got this data now, and this is all I asked for. I could ask you, but what does this raise for you, or what do you see?
I think that there are some controls that could be put in place. That we're not making any recommendations at this point, because that's not what we're supposed to do.
No.
But there are some methods of accounting that could be better, that could be tightened up.
Probably discuss
Nothing,
with your fiscals when
Yes.
you put the resolution through. And
but
make
nothing,
sure
This,
I want to say, though, that nothing that we saw indicated fraud. Nothing indicated a misuse of the funds, because the federal guidelines stated that what the funds were utilized for and how they were reported to the federal government was accurate. So,
yeah, but that's not what I'm asking you per se. I'm just saying, what would, you've got this data, would you have any next steps? Because you're the auditor, you could audit anything you want.
I do not believe that our office would be qualified to do a forensic audit. That would be required.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm done
Don.
with my questions.
So,
John,
yeah,
John,
yep.
may I ask a question? I know you have
All right,
questions. but
yeah, no,
I just-
Ron, I have a few questions first, and then I'll bring you back, okay?
Thank you. That's fine.
Thank you. All right, so one, I disagree with your last statement, meaning, actually, the Treasury ARPA rules were not violated, but the resolution issued by this body was. That money was specifically intended to be used for retention bonuses. And at least you've confirmed that the money was not used for retention bonuses in its entirety. That you've confirmed. I think we could agree on that topic. Question I have, in your audit report,
Well, yeah, that's obvious. Yeah, we got.
well, that was the resolution, that's what triggered all of this. This body agreed that the 5 million should go to retention bonuses over a spectrum of time. Here, it was focused on Graysdale. The audit verifies the fact that that was not done. So that's a violation of the resolution that this body put forth as the controlling entity of the funds for the county. So we can agree to that the resolution was not met per your audit. Okay, two, question I have. You said you're rolling up 2.36 million was paid in retention bonuses, but that 2.36 million was not from the ARPA money. According to what you stated, according to what you stated in your chart, Exhibit 1, all the funds were expended at the end of 2023. Per your chart here, you're showing 1.4 million in retention bonuses were paid within the 22-2023 timeframe. That's 1.48 million that would have gone to retention bonuses. The other 3.5 million, 3.52 million then would have been expended on other expenses according to your audit, because the fund balance was depleted at that point, so there was no money left in the general fund of Graysdale, so all that money was consumed. Could we agree that that is an accurate statement?
They were still paying retention bonuses in the retention bonus pay code.
But not using the ARPA funds according to the audit report.
All the money in Graysdale Fund is commingled.
Okay, as of 2023,
I understand.
as of
The fund balance was
2023,
depleted.
everything
Yeah,
was
the fund
depleted.
balance was
The
depleted.
monies
Fund
were
balance was depleted.
spent, 1.48 million over the 2023 timeframe was spent on retention bonuses that your audit proved.
I do understand.
And everything at that point, then, all the money was gone, the ARPA money is gone, so that means 3.52 million had to go to somewhere else in the expenses
Right.
of Graysdale at that point.
And that is in a finding in our report,
Yeah,
too.
right, so that's,
yes,
but
yes.
but this exhibit is misleading, because you're saying, well, 2.3 $6 million of retention bonuses have been paid, which
It says
fun-
exactly
after
what it says. That's how
2023, those funds are not coming out of the ARPA pool of money. I just wanted to separate the pools of money where the money's being paid
That's where the
from.
problem lies. The money was not separated in the beginning. If you want ARPA
As of
funds-
2023, all the money was gone of the ARPA monies that were moved into the general fund
We
of
determined-
Graysdale,
We
correct?
determined that the money had not been budgeted for the retention bonuses still to be paid in 2025. It has been determined that the difference between the budgeted vacancy factor and the actual vacancy factor was expected to cover incidental salary expenses such as the retention bonuses, which is in here. But you did ask how much was paid towards
Correct.
retention bonuses.
I'm clarifying the
So,
data,
yes.
because the data on this sheet is somewhat
mark-
misleading if you don't really.
We did mark how much was paid each year for retention bonuses, and we did also put in the fund balance was depleted, but that this is how they budgeted for those retention bonuses.
So I'm asking for, so we're in agreement, I'm just looking for acknowledgement that
That is
as
all
of-
in our report, I
as of
agree with that.
2023, end of 2023, all the ARPA money was consumed within the Graysdale
The
fund.
5 million that was sent.
Anything, any retention bonuses paid thereafter had to come from other monies than ARPA.
Yes.
Okay?
It was
We're
not
in
from the,
agree-
it was
we're in
not from
agree-
the 5 million
Okay.
retention at that
Great.
point.
And that would then point to the fact that in 2023, 3.52 million went to non-retention bonuses at that point.
Went to your operating expenses.
Right, operating expense, okay. So we can agree to that. So the ARPA money was expended.
The 5 million.
At that point. The 5 million
Just on record.
was expended at that point. So my question, in 2023, there was also, and I don't know if you looked at this, the loss, which was $27 million, I believe, according to the CAFR report that you were looking at there, also required another $3.4 million to be moved into the Graysdale budget, because as a special fund, that has to be zeroed out, correct? You can't carry forward an operating loss. Did you identify where that 3.4 million came from?
That wasn't in the scope of our audit.
Okay, are you able to, based on your type of audit, prove where that 3.4 million would have come from?
We did state that it was, that county, we said bonuses were not tracked separately from other county contributions to Graysdale.
Okay, so you can tell me where the 3.4 million would have come from outside of the Graysdale budget to balance it at that point?
We did not put a
If
balance, but
You
there-
didn't do it, but if I asked you in a new audit report, you could do that. I'm not asking you to tell me today.
Yes,
I'm
and as
asking
we
if
did
that's
state in the
possible.
report, there was county contributions made, and the ARPA money was moved over, and that it
Great.
was all depleted.
Okay, so you also then,
I cannot, though, confirm the 3.4, as that is out of the scope of
no,
this
that's
audit.
fine.
Sorry.
That's actually in the CAFR report. It's
Yes.
showing that there was monies
Yes.
came in order to zero out Graysdale.
And that's a
Correct.
fiscal question.
That's fine. I'm not,
Yeah, he's
I'm
just
not
trying to
asking you
gather-
to
Information. Yeah, yeah.
I'm asking an informational question overall. So the bonuses are continuing, retention bonuses are continuing from from the non-ARPA money going forth, okay? So I guess that begets, this is more of a budgeting question, then why are the career service not being paid this year? If in 24 and 24 bonuses were paid, 25 they're being paid from non-ARPA money, then why were they selected independently of all the other employees and those bonuses aren't being paid? Not asking you to
Yes,
answer
but
that
that's a good question for
I'm
them
I'm
to be
raising
asked.
concerns based on the audit report that you have. I do have a very specific question. In your audit report, you mentioned that the management was not available. Where are they? Have they been fired? Have they left the county? Are they on permanent sabbatical and out of phone call reach? Who's the management and why weren't they able to be interviewed? If they seem to be the cross bearer, several several times, we're circling around, and this mystery management group suddenly disappears. Can you tell me who it was, and are they still employed by the county?
When we talked to Larry, he said that they're no longer with the county.
Okay, but that's not an answer. We have bodies in place, okay, that were there. Larry is Larry still with the county at this point?
That's undetermined.
I cannot answer if Larry is with the county that,
Okay.
He's
Is the
still-
former administrator,
see that he's
Jennifer
still there
Stewart
as
King,
Larry
still
on
with the county? Because Jennifer Stewart King was the administrator for 7 years, 3 months and change. Is she still with the county? And if she is, then why wasn't she interviewed for this process? Because the audit was requested, I think, just prior to her changing positions, supposedly. And if she's still, which I understood she was moved, she took a position, stepped back to administration, which is fine. I understand people have their issues, but that does not eliminate that person from being interviewed in an audit report or by your team relative to the fact that the management of Graysdale seems to be responsible. The Director of Fiscal Affairs claims they don't know anything. The executive stated he was completely unaware that any of this was going on. So there's got to be a body here somewhere.
time frame. So that's why he questioned with him.
But the time frame that we're asking about expands beyond the time frame that he was the administrator. We're talking from 2022 up until whenever you executed the audit in 2025. So it is pertinent that whoever would have been in that arc of time in a management role to make these kind of decisions should have been interviewed, or at least had the opportunity, your team should have had the opportunity to interview them, and I want to know where they are. Because it's not, I don't find it acceptable to go, they weren't available. I'm sorry, that's not, unless every one of them is gone, not with the county going forward.
I believe at the time of the audit, Larry Erickson was the interim manager. That is who Mark interviewed. In the scope of our audit, this isn't a forensic audit. It's not, well, let's see. It is more about him interviewing the current management and them explaining. That was the scope of the audit.
The challenge I'm
understand what
having,
you're
I'm having,
having,
the
yes.
challenge I'm having with that position that you're taking, right, is that the ARPA money was completely expended at the end of 2023.
I do understand what
So
you're
actually, it should have been the management that was in place in 2022 and 2023, possibly going into 2024, that really would be able to answer the questions that is at the crux of this, is like, who did it, who directed it, where did the money go?
Our audit staff does not have the power to compel somebody to give a statement.
Okay, no, that's fair. No, that's fair. I understand you can't compel them, and if they're running down the hall away from you, you can't tackle them and force them to, you know.
So
But to
management
put
can
into the audit
cooperate.
report that, you know, the management is at fault and not be able to say that you actually got to interview them raises a huge red flag for me. I'll move on from there,
I
but.
think we didn't say there, we just stated they were no longer with the county to answer the question.
Right.
Well, you said they were no longer in the position.
You can certainly check into that. I mean, you have every ability to follow up on this in any way you wish to do so.
All right, but the audit report is misleading then, quite honestly.
Well, not
Audit report
necessarily.
provides the
In my interpretation, excuse me, in my interpretation, it's misleading. My reading of it, it's misleading.
It does
with
sound
that.
like it's leading you in a certain direction, though.
Yes, thank
So
you.
it's not very
No, that's fine, I'll move,
Missed about it.
I'll move on from there. You addressed the questions regarding the federal reporting along that line. The management team disappeared. So what I find interesting, though,
Larry was there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They were just saying Larry was there,
Yeah.
but, so there was a management team that hadn't totally
And he
disappeared.
stated
but-
there was nothing tracked. That he
Yes, no, that's fine, okay, right,
You
fine.
have to
Larry's, we'll leave Larry as the management team. And,
You have to understand, when you're talking to auditors, you're talking literal. They're literally saying,
no, that's,
no one disappeared.
that's fine, I got it. You know, I
Right.
understand the clarification, and we will refer to Larry as the interim administrator that was interviewed for this particular audit. Okay, great, I got that, thank you. I don't need any further clarification on that. Question I do, that, some procedural things, since we're stepping on that a little bit. The books, I understand, and this may be a fiscal question, I understand Greystale closes their books monthly. So there's an accounting done monthly for Greystale, rolls everything up. We have a profit and loss type of
That would be a fiscal question.
monthly. So what I find interesting is how it gets to the point after 12 months, and then we're showing a $27 million loss in 2023. There was another $8.1 million that was shown at the end of 2024, which I asked the question, where'd the money come from? I don't see a budget amendment that had moved the money into Greystale at that point. So someone's moving money without the authorization of this particular body. That kicked me off back earlier in the first quarter. I never got an answer on that. I was told, wait to see the fiscal report audit from the independent auditors from that. But that, what I'm pointing to is this along with so the way monies are moved without being brought before this body is troublesome. They ignored the resolution, or they didn't honor the resolution. Monies are not supposed to be moved without coming before this body. So there's a pattern of disregard for the checks and balances that are meant to be put in place between the legislative, the council here, and the executive branch overall. And there's a pattern, and that is really more irksome than anything else. You know, the fact that we were told they negotiated the contracts with the unions in 2023, 2024. I'm sorry, yeah, each union did, no, I understand that. And therefore, we were told, you know, you don't need, you know, the bonus money won't be paid. However, those union contracts, when you look at them, just compound the actual monies that would have been spent. You've been better off paying the bonuses, it would have been cheaper in the long run. But that, to me, would have said, if the program had been followed and the unions were negotiating out the bonuses for whatever the negotiating one, I was going to assume for a higher salaries, then there should have been more bonus money available. It should have been more bonus money available, but yet it was all gone at the end of 2023. And no one stood here before us and said, guess what, all the bonus money, January 1, 2024, all the bonus money's gone from the ARPA. We have to repivot and take it from there. That conversation did not take place with this body between the administration or fiscal on that. I understand, not part of your audit
It wasn't
scope
an actual objective.
with
So
that.
it would be a good question for, I think, Steve.
That is a good question for Steve.
Can I ask one silly question? in the
Yeah,
middle?
go ahead. Looking at my
On
notes.
2025, on your Exhibit 1, it said under career services, there was $2,500 bonus. Was that something that was due somebody at the end of the calendar year and
Yes,
got paid in
yes.
January?
Yep, that
And
was,
that's-
their anniversary, no, it was, their anniversary was at the end of the year of 2024.
So it got paid in the first
So it had to
quarter,
be
or the
paid,
first-
because you had to be paid with your paycheck as the time frame. So our first paycheck in 2025 included 2024 paydays.
Thank you. Sorry, John.
That's,
It was just that little
actually-
money hanging out there, and
let me check here.
that was
Okay.
the easy part, right? That one little bonus. Or was that one, or was it two?
there was something that came up that was out of the ordinary, that he researched it and verified that it was proper and not.
Use the mic. Sorry.
Yeah,
She's like-
we verified all of the payments after the sunset date. One was to career service. That individual had a December 30th anniversary, so it would have been paid in January. The one to the steelworkers in 2024 was made in error.
But it was only because it was paid right before the contracts were.
Yes.
Okay. So the last statement I'm going to make then, I'm going to go back to the fact, reiterate of just, one, the resolution this body passed was violated or not honored, however you want to say it, that not your, you don't need to make that determination, but your information confirms that the monies were gone. Retention bonuses continue to be paid. The career service people were told by the management of Graysdale, the interim manager, that you could talk to, that they were not going to be paid to the career service people. So that's actually an intentional decision of the management of this county, or I should say, management of Graysdale, not to pay those bonuses. So that's actually intentional. Some of the unions are still being paid. I believe some of the people are still being paid. So I don't understand why the career service could not also be honored with that. So they're being singled out. I understand they don't have union representation necessarily, but it would appear that your audit is confirming that fact overall. They are not, according to the management of Graysdale. Yeah, okay. That, I'll end my comments there. Anybody else have
Ron was
questions?
hanging out there with a
Ron,
question.
yeah,
Ron is hanging out
Ron,
still.
back to you.
Oh, no, I don't have any new questions. I have to say the bonus business, I think one could argue that the union's employees, that the MOUs took care of whatever happened. If there are union members who feel they were cheated somehow, they've got to talk to their union leaders or their business agent, because we were told that handled that. But you brought up something. My only concern would be for the non-union employees who may have anticipated they were still going to get this bonus, but they didn't. And I believe the administration said, it was paid in overtime. I don't know if that was what was factored or what was intended, but nonetheless, I have no more questions for the controller. I thank them for their report.
Thank you, Ron. Anybody else have questions for the controller at this point? Okay. If not, then we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right, next on the agenda is the discussion regarding the 2025 budget amendments. I believe there were two amendments, 886, introduced by Ken Kraft and Jeff Warren on May 15th, and then 888 from June 5, 2025. Anybody would like to open up with any questions on these amendments? Yeah, is there anybody here from the administration to answer questions regarding these budget amendments? No one to answer questions, then, with no one here to answer questions, the whole point of putting them on the agenda so we have a chance to talk about them, I'm going to make a motion not to move them forward to the general, remove them from the agenda until we get a chance to discuss it with someone that can answer these particular questions. The point of this committee was that we could have the proper amount of time in order to do this. These are not new amendments, so he should have been here, or Brandon should have been here to address the matter.
I was just providing.
No,
with
thank you,
that-
Nicole.
that
I
update.
appreciate the update on that. All right, next on the agenda, any questions or comments on that at this point? No? Okay. So clerk, I'll ask you to remove them from the agenda for tomorrow. Can I, what? So if they're not moved from the committee, they
Wasn't
go on
one
the,
tabled already?
agenda anyway? Okay, all right, so we'll deal with the second one tomorrow, or we'll have to deal with both of them tomorrow then, potentially. Okay, thank you for the clarification on that. Next, we have review of the administrative code, Article 13, contract resolutions. The first one is contract for Alex Tire, 33 Ford and Wrench Tech. Anybody from the administration want to address these contracts? This particular contract?
Normally fiscal would address this, but I know these are our standard contracts we have for our fleet of vehicles. Whenever we need repairs, we have pre-negotiated rates and contracts with various service providers throughout the county.
Anybody from council have questions on this? Concerns? Because basically, we're going to get the same answer for every one of these potentially.
Is this the same vendor that we've been using, or is this a new one?
All three of these vendors we've been contracting with in the past. We've been using them for our service.
Council, what would you like to do?
Jeff?
Ron? John, comments, questions?
I don't see any issues with us getting some answers tomorrow if the fiscal affairs director is going to be here. I mean, if we're going to get answers then, before voting on this, then we get answers then before voting on this, whether it's,
Forward, because I can't move it forward, but you can.
oh, I'll move it forward.
Yeah, there you
I'll
go.
move them forward. Yes, sorry, I thought you wanted my opinion on the,
Just proceed.
the lack of.
I'm not in
the-
charge. I'm trying to just
okay.
get us to the
All right,
next
next
meeting.
item is the Administrative Code Article 13 for Alloy 5 architecture. I think this has,
I have a question on that one, John.
go ahead, John.
Oh, wait,
I'm
Mr.
assuming nobody's
Mealy's
there to
here. Do you
answer
want him to come
again?
forward? He stood up and then he sat down.
Hello?
Yeah, hold on one second. Go ahead, Mike, go ahead.
Good evening.
Mike, I guess my question is, what was the county's justification for choosing Alloy 5 at this point? I know THA was their first pick. Now they're going to Alloy 5. What is your opinion, and what is the administration's opinion regarding changing to Alloy 5?
The justification for Alloy 5 is they have a ton of experience working with or designing parking decks, particularly in the city of Easton. Out of the 3 architectural firms that we brought in for interviews, their price was the second lowest, but as you may recall, the lowest price proposal we received from O&S Associates was almost like suspiciously low, and they even kind of brought that up during their presentation. So we felt that there was a potential for cost overruns if the contract were to be awarded to them. And they're also a local firm with an office in Bethlehem. So those are the reasons why we decided to move forward with Alloy 5.
You say Alloy 5 has a ton of parking deck experience. Do they have more parking deck experience than ONS?
I'd say it's a comparable amount of experience.
You can't say which one has had more experience one way or the other?
They both have extensive experience with parking structures.
Okay. Yeah, I sat through the meetings as you did. I was, very partial to ONS. I thought their presentation was fantastic. And as far as their fees, I think their fees are well within the margin of what this project entails. I also don't think they should be penalized for being the low bidder. I have no problem with supporting a local firm. I've never had bad experience with Alloy 5. I just was very impressed with ONS. And I know you shared that opinion as well because you told me that. So I'm disturbed that the two opinions that had the most experience in that room, yours and mine, are our first picks are not being entertained. And I took a lot of time and put a lot of thought into those picks, but yet neither of those options have been, they're the last pick, it seems, by the administration. And I can't help but think that it's because I picked the two that I picked that they are the ones that are being picked last. And, for that reason, I'm not going to support this. Unless I can hear a better reason why ONS wasn't, picked, I think their bid being low should be a feather in their cap, not a reason to throw away their bid. And I know that's not a question, so thank you for answering the questions that I did have.
Mr. Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. How much lower were ONS from Alloy 5? Do you have that, Mr. Mealy?
They were about 100,000 lower.
Seems aggressively lower.
It was by far the lowest price proposal that we received.
In your experience, do firms do that simply to get the contract, and then after a period of time, there may be, I don't know, whether there are various changes in scope? I don't know. I'm not 100%. I'm not an expert in this, but where the cost would end up potentially going up.
It certainly happens. I mean, I don't have any direct experience working with ONS, and I don't know what their motives were. They stated in the interview they were hungry for the work, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't come back to us seeking extras.
Seems aggressively low. We of course always want to usually go with the lowest bidder, of course, when we're using taxpayer money. But if something's aggressively low like that, I don't know, that sends up a red flag to me.
Just a question, is there someone from Alloy 5 here? There's a presentation on a screen or?
Yes,
just
we do
random
have
slide?
representatives from Alloy 5 here. They have a presentation prepared, so if there's no further questions for me, I'll turn it over to them.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Randy Galliotto. I'm a principal at Alloy 5. Becca's going to kick off the presentation. I'll wrap it up. This is our slide deck that was presented to the committee during our interview. So we took an hour, I think, at that interview, so we're going to try to do it in like 5 minutes. So write down
Very
any
much
questions
appreciated. Thank
you have, and we're certainly happy to answer them.
I'm sorry, can you say your name again?
Yep, my name is Becca Rustock, and I'm the Director of Development for Alloy 5. So I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and like Randy said, I will be extraordinarily brief. I'll just say about Alloy 5 that we're a firm that's founded on principles, and I think you'll find that a lot of architecture firms are founded on principles, but we mean principles like your values, so not principles like your people. Our values are healthy design, honest collaboration, and hard work. We take the traditional practice of architecture and combine it with interiors and graphic design to practice what we call communication by design. So it works great as a slogan, but it's also much deeper than that for us. It's our ethos. We believe that it's important to create good design, but especially in a public theater like this, it's extra important to be able to communicate that design and to be able to hear your needs and what you need out of your project and be able to communicate and confirm that we've heard you. We've heard not just the people in this body, but any members of the public, any members of the administration, anyone who would be affected by, in this case, the parking deck. And then we believe it's our unique ability to document that and communicate that design back to you. You're looking at a picture, like a composite photo of our whole team. We have 49 professionals in our office. We do have an office in Bethlehem. We also have an office in Allentown, and we have an office in Scranton. Included in that 49 team of professionals are 11 licensed architects. We like to be very connected to our community. So I will point out that we have architects in our office that serve as professors at the community college, as well as Marywood University and Keene University over in New Jersey. We have members of the armed forces. We are also known for our volunteerism. We try to volunteer with as many groups as we can throughout the year and contribute to our neighbors and friends. Earlier this year, we were named one of the top workplaces in Pennsylvania, in the Lehigh Valley, which we are very proud of. And then we have consistently been awarded for our excellent designs by the American Institute of Architects Eastern PA chapter, which is our local chapter here in the Lehigh Valley. Our project team is what you're looking at now, and that includes several architects as well as very experienced construction administration senior project managers, people that really know Easton very well, really know the dirt is how Randy likes to describe it. We also picked several engineering firms who are very familiar with what it's like to build in Easton, what can you expect when you start digging in the ground. We put this team together specifically for this project. So currently, we do not work with Northampton County, but we do work with Lehigh County, your neighboring county, and we also have a contract with Montgomery County. So we're familiar with the demands of county work. And I will point out that we work with several municipalities throughout the county. We work with many of the school districts that are in the county, and we also work for several large businesses and nonprofits throughout the county. So we're very familiar with the needs of the county. And all the time that we build with these people, the question always becomes the same, is where's everybody gonna park? It doesn't matter if we're building a school, or if we're building a police station, or if we're building any type of facility, it always comes down to parking. So over the past 5 years, what we've really worked on as a practice is how do we make the most creative parking solutions that we can. We have designed about a little bit over 5,000 under roof parking spaces in this region alone. And we've done that for everything from downtown districts and police stations to residential projects and schools. We included this project just because it's such a unique parking solution, and we really wanted to highlight our ability to be creative in designing parking solutions. This is over at the Executive Education Academy Charter School, which is right behind the Iron Pig Stadium. It's an old Bell Telephone Lab building that's been converted to a school. And like many school districts, they struggle to find enough field space for athletics. And so our solution here is to build a stadium above a parking deck. This will be, I believe, a first of its kind facility in Pennsylvania, and it'll be one of only 3 facilities like this on the East Coast. As far as Easton goes, there are 7 recent parking structures that were built here over the last, I think it was about the last decade. Our team has contributed to 5 of those designs. And I'll turn it over to Randy to talk a little bit more specifically about the county.
So we wanted to just highlight a couple things that were important to us related to designing garages. Becca mentioned the stadium project, and when I look at this aerial, I think about playing in this garage as a kid, riding my bike and those things, because that's what we did here in the city. I think we can all agree that it needs some work, right? And it's beyond its useful life. So we took a stab at just making sure the committee understood what was important to us when we would start designing this project. And the first thing is the entrance sequence. It's important for garages, precast structures to last a long time. You want the cars to be able to wipe their feet before they enter, because a lot of the times in the winter there's salts. So we would look at that. We would look at placing footings in a spot that it would not prohibit any type of garage expansion in the future or any other type of building. We would look at secured parking spaces for county staff, and we'll work with the county to address those. We look at expansion joints. Those are important. Those are maintenance items. We just did the maintenance on the garage behind City Hall at its 10-year mark. And vertical pedestrian circulation. How do people get through this garage and get through this garage safely? Open walls, we want a garage to be open so we don't contain fumes and those things. It is part of the building code. Open garages save money. You don't have to spend a lot of money on those other things. Security and safety. And then we did this rendering, and I think if I click, it should play. So we did a complete design just to show our skills in being.
Where'd you go, man?
Yeah. The screen is moving, so we wanted to show you what our thoughts would be as far as visioning goes with the garage, so that you understand what it could look like. It's a little slow. I think this might take up our whole 5 minutes that I promised you, but you'll see it to the left. And there are many of options of getting through. We did get some information from the city of Easton regarding pedestrian crosses, and I do think that we're going to have to address that with this project. But you can see the garage there, set back from the street, allows for some open space out front, could keep the parking, could not keep the parking, could use that space as parking expansion. We may actually look at bringing the garage all the way to Washington Street. We just haven't had those dialogues yet with the county, but what we were given is what we are showing, and that's what you're seeing on the screen. So I'll end with, as Becca mentioned, we designed 5 of the 7 garages here in Easton, including the new 4th Street garage, the garage behind City Hall, the new garage being built at Watermark Apartments. We partnered with Pannoni Associates. They have an extensive experience with precast structures. We do all of those projects with Pannoni Associates, so the team is very familiar with each other. And we also did the new garage at, they did the new garage at Lafayette College. And the guys that are up next, the CHA, we have a lot of experience working with them as construction managers. Thank you.
Any questions from anybody for Becca or Randy? No? Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate
One
it.
dumb one. Are you still doing the underneath? Because, you know, right now it's got that underneath, and then this would be street level, and then the above, or you're getting rid of that underneath?
The plan would be to look at that underneath as secure parking. So depending on where we put the garage may determine whether.
Where to start? Thanks.
All right, next item is County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. Got a resolution. Council received from the county executive for
P-Corps.
county council to adopt a resolution approving amount of $989,762 with the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. And this is for
P-Corps, it's all
P-Corps.
our insurance.
Yep, okay. Property and liability insurance. Questions? Any questions on that? Okay. Next, we have the CHA Consulting. We have a resolution to adopt the contract for $492,500. Again, Mike or anybody from CHA?
Yes, so obviously this is the construction management contract for the proposed parking deck, and we do have representatives from CHA here to give a little presentation and answer any questions. Before they come up, is there any questions for me?
Anybody have questions for Mike on CHA?
Can I ask you the same question John did about this company? Because again, was this your first pick the last time or no?
They were not, but they submitted the lowest cost proposal for the construction management services. They're locally based here in Bethlehem, and they also have a ton of experience with parking structures and, you know, precast concrete.
Mike, just a question. It seems like there's been some flip-flopping. At one point, the executive was up here kind of beating the podium about Skanska, was it, or as being the preferred?
Well, those contracts came up previously, and they were tabled by council, if I remember correctly. So these, you know, we're moving forward with these recommendations instead. Every firm that we interviewed was very well qualified, and you know, we feel confident about the consultants that are here tonight.
Thank you, Mike.
Can I ask a question, John?
Yeah, go ahead. Guys, come on up.
I just want to ask why is this bid not suspiciously low? You know, I'm trying to follow the logic here, and once again, Mike, you and I think both voted oil for the first pick for construction managers, and yet once again, our top picks are not been the first recommendation or the second recommendation of the administration. I understand CHA is there. respect for their firm as well as Alloy 5's. I'm just trying to figure out the process here and trying to figure out why I sat through these meetings and, why the opinions of the engineer and the construction manager and people in the industries are being ignored. So, if you have any answer to those questions, great. If not, I'm just voicing my opinion, my displeasure with this whole process.
There was a tighter cluster in the cost for the construction management proposals, and I think we only received 4 construction management proposals versus 9 for the design contracts. And, out of those 9, O&S Associates was by far the lowest. So we felt like that was a less responsive bid than what we received on the construction management side.
But as far as aggressively low, which was the statement you made, are you basing that on percentages of overall sums, or is that just an opinion? Because I don't think that O&S was any lower percentage-wise to the next closest bidder than CHA was to Boyle, who is also a local firm, which if we're following the logic that we picked Alloy 5 by, then, Boyle has tons of parking deck experience, has been around for a long time, stellar reputation, and yeah, they weren't the low bid. So CHA, I feel like if we're going to go with one thought process, let's be consistent. And it seems like we're contradicting ourselves here.
The design fee from O&S was much lower than the estimate that we originally were given by Skanska as part of the basis that we used to put the bond together. The construction management totals came more in line with what we were expecting.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I don't know where we are in the bond with this, but the total price for this, both of them would be 10 million? Do I have that right?
For the
1 million? Or how much more are we going to spend besides these 2 bids? This is what they estimate the cost for actually building the project would be, or no?
No, this is strictly for construction management to oversee the construction.
This isn't the actual
building. That'll, we
see.
won't know that for at least a year.
And, due to the supposed urgency that we pass this under, 2027 is the soonest we're going to be able to get this done?
I would say the design process will probably take about 9 months once we get that started. And it'll be another, probably 2 months to bid it and another month to get the contracts approved. So it'll probably be about a year from the time we start design to the time that we can begin construction.
Thank you.
Turn it over to CHA.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. We're going to keep it short also. So Mike Sander and my name is Arif Fazil, and this is Mike Sander. We're both professional engineers, and we've been doing construction management for a long time. We're honored to be considered for the county. The last project we did here was the Juvenile Justice Center for the county, and that went very successfully as well. And we have a short presentation, but Mike's going to hand out what we call a placemat, which is a very short summary. We didn't bring food, but it's a placemat.
Well, that's it. You can't have the contract because it's too late now. No pizza, no contract.
So while Mike's handing that out, we do have a short presentation for your consideration, and we'll walk you through that as well. Just to give you a little background, our approach is very simple. We do a lot of public projects. So we've been doing all of the projects for the Bethlehem Area School District, Easton Area School District, Nazareth, Northampton, in and around this entire area. So we do a lot of public work, and we're very good at executing public projects. One of the things that I think has made us very, very good at doing that is we just treat the project like it's our own home. It's a very simple philosophy, a very simple approach, and we hope to do that and plan to do that for the county as well. So I'll just walk you through our presentation, and then Mike can finish up here. Where is it? Is it this one, Mike? Gotcha. All right. So we put together a team specifically for this. One of the things we're responsible for doing is a constructability review. and Mike will talk a little bit about that. But one of the team members we have, another licensed PE, has been designing precast structures for his entire life. And so we're going to bring a little of that expertise, even though Alloy, who's very good at doing the design, a second pair of eyes to just review some of those details that Alloy talked about. So local personal service with national expertise. I live in Bethlehem. Mike lives in proximity, and we have people all around the area that work in and around the area. We've had a lot of project success on similar projects for counties and different municipalities all throughout, not only Northampton, Lehigh, but as far as Montgomery County and all the way up to Berks as well, Reading. So just really quickly, the role of the CM, we look at this as 6 major priorities. So one is obviously getting the owner criteria and making sure the program requirements are met. So you can have a successful project but not meet those criteria. That's very important. So we're focused on that. We're owner's rep. We're focused on delivering for you. We're not contractors. We're really, in essence, representing you, the county. The other thing is budget and best value. We're going to be targeting that all through the project. I know you just mentioned, council member, that the budget, we got to look at that all the way from the start to the end and get you best value. Quality, especially with a parking garage outside structure, you can't compromise on quality, and that's one of our roles, to oversee that and make sure that happens. And then the schedule and milestones, you were talking about the schedule. I think the schedule that Mr. Mealy outlined is going to be one that we're going to be targeting, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Mike will talk about that. Safety and phasing can't be compromised. So first of all, it's a public facility. You still have civic presence that has to be maintained here, accessing the courthouse, accessing the juvenile justice center. You have a jail, you have people coming here, so we have to manage that. So no compromise on that. And then the last one, a lot of people forget, our job is really to manage your risk and liability. When you undertake a project, any project, you're assuming risk. And our job is to really find a way to make sure we reduce that risk to the county and make sure it's appropriately placed where it's supposed to be. That's critical, and that's something that we've had a lot of success with. I'll knock on wood, our projects have no claims, no issues. We've never been brought into litigation before. And in public work, that's really something that's hard to do. And I think it's really our strategies for that really drive the ship. So planning the work early and then working the plan. If we create a good set of bid documents with Alloy 5 and we create those nice set of documents with the phasing, the project will go smoothly. And that's what we got to focus on in that first 9 months, as was outlined by Mike. And we're going to look at all of those things, make sure we have VE opportunities, find opportunities through those 9 months. Some of the parameters for a parking garage budget. Of course, we have to look at the demo costs. We have to look at the utilities, the substructure. Randy was talking about the dirt. And really, that's one of the areas that's got to be critical. How do we remove that existing structure successfully? How do we prepare the ground so that we can really get this new structure up on its strong foundation and last a long time? Those are going to be some of the things. And then, of course, the critical things are details in a parking garage. That's where parking garages fail, and we'll show you some of our tricks that we have to make sure that doesn't happen. Talked about constructability. So when you do constructability, one of the things we look at, and so Mike will be guiding the ship, but he'll have a team under him. So we'll have a mechanical, electrical, we'll have the precast people, we'll have people that are good at site work. We'll be reviewing and helping make sure those drawings that Alloy and their team put together are as bulletproof as possible. And that's really the focus. So one of the things we look for is coordinatability. How does it go together quickly? If it goes together quickly and the pieces come together well, you get better pricing. Competability. So the more conventional it is, the more opportunities there are for vendors and subs to bid on this, the better the competition, the better the results. And then the last one we're going to look at for your garage is maintainability. Obviously, that's really critical in a parking garage, as Alloy had indicated. So we got to make sure it withstands the weather requirements. And to do that, as I said, besides myself and Mike Sander, we have technical specialists. So you see Kristen there. She's going to be making sure the documents are solid as we go out to bid, because this is a public bid project. We properly assign the contract responsibilities and work with the county team and the solicitor and making sure these documents are managing your risk very well. And then there's Abdo. Abdo is a very fantastic designer of precast structures, so he's one of the guys that's going to help do some of those constructability reviews with Mike. Just a simple thing, Aloy showed you a layout, but a very simple example is if you can create parking on the ramp portions of the parking garage, you've just saved money right there. So layout of a garage is the first thing that's very critical, and there are many options. We ourselves looked at 4 options just playing around, and every option results in a different number of parking counts. So we'll work with the county, we'll work with Alloy, but number one value engineering, just the layout of the garage alone can result in more parking for the same square foot cost. And those are some of the strategies we'll look at. Sustainability and procurement considerations. One of the things in the RFP was look at perhaps some solar overhead on the roof structure. We're going to look at that and look at whether there are appropriate tax credits, whether there's appropriate grants available, and how to capitalize that. Perhaps that will be an alternate bid that we could bring to you. But we're going to look at that. But even the way the concrete's made, we have to be sustainable. What are we going to do with the demolition material? How is that going to be recycled? These are all strategies to make sure, as a public entity, we're doing the right thing from a sustainability and a green standpoint as well. And then I'll turn it over to Mike. He'll talk a little bit about execution.
Thank you, Arif. So as we talked about, we kind of worked through our design process and our hand-in-hand with the county and with Alloy 5. So now really, I'm going to take you through the next steps, kind of the journey as we go into construction, right? We've already been kind of thinking about this, and some of the big things outside really is your location. It's an urban environment. We have to deal with the surrounding areas. We have to maintain traffic. We have to understand how we're going to demolish such a large structure. So all of these things are start feeding our thought process and in our head and how we're going to try to tackle some of these problems, these large-scale kind of issues. So one of the things that we thought of and looking at in a model that's a little different is how this is going to kind of look during construction. We really have, as Arif said, these competing interests. You have that strong civic presence that we need to maintain the entire time. We make sure we're maintaining access and public safety. We want to maintain operations of the prison and all those great things that are important, all while building a very large structure and all while making sure that we maintain that public flow around 2 very popular streets. So really, our approach is trying to balance that act of 2 competing interests throughout this entire project. So one of the great ways that we do this is phasing documents and milestone schedules. So this is contractually in the bid. So this indicates of not only what the timeframes are, but also who's doing what. It assigns roles and responsibilities to the contractors. It gives them predetermined times to complete tasks. This is all in an effort to maintain our control and make sure that you guys are informed of what the progress is, that everybody is being held accountable. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But the big part, these are key dates built into our contract that all bidding contractors know of and are aware of that we talk as we start this project. So we're always in control. So another big thing that we lead to is making sure that we're managing your risk, as Arif talked about. And that really starts with the sound contract documents and specifications. Really want to make sure we have proper bidder qualifications. We want to make sure that we have really strong and sound general conditions. And we want to make sure that we really have clear scope assignments so that everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing and when they're supposed to be doing it. Now, really what we're striving at is to make sure that we have a bid day success. And it really all starts with proper timing of the bids. So we're all concerned with the schedule, but proper timing of the bids is key. And we're making sure that we're reaching out to the right contractors at the right time, making sure we're engaging vendors and everyone's aware of what's going on and this procurement process so that people are paying attention from the start. And then we want to make sure we have mandatory pre-bids, so we inform all potential bidders of what's going to happen, and so they're really informed and able to provide accurate bid information, all leading to a bid day success for the county so we can get this project off to a start. So as I mentioned, we're really already start thinking that, and one of the biggest steps is trying to get this large structure out of the place there, and how we do that, how we maintain safety, and how we keep everything moving forward. So how do we tackle that approach? That really boils down to what we call our CAD philosophy as kind of a play on word. Communication, accountability, and documentation. 3 very simple things, but are really deep premises for us to keep moving forward. So communication, we want to make sure that everybody's informed at all times. We want to make sure the chain of communication through all people are flowing through us. We want to make sure you, the county's in the driver's seat throughout this entire process, and everyone feels in control, and they also feel like they understand what's going on, which is crucial on a project of this magnitude. Accountability. So everyone says that, but we really strive on this, and it really starts with sound bid documents and using all the tools in our toolbox, as it would, to keep everybody in line. And it's not about finger pointing, it's making sure we have action plans. We're holding people accountable to what needs to be done. We're helping push things through. So it really all builds on how we tackle this accountability. It's really nothing to do with finger pointing, it's making sure we all know what's going on. Documentation, documentation, documentation. So this is really the driving factor of everything, right? We want to make sure we're providing everybody with clear, detailed reports. We have people here full-time. We want to make sure that we're reviewing documents correctly and accurately, making sure we're staying on top of the schedule. We want to make sure that everybody's informed and everybody knows what's happening, so we can go back to something a year from now, or make sure we're looking ahead a year from now and that everybody's informed of what's going on. And some of the key ways that we do this are 2 digital systems, Project Mates and Plan Grids. They're really some great industry products. We've been using these products for well over 20 years now. Contractors are extremely familiar with Project Mates and use it every day. So as a design team, this is a pretty substantial program. And the goal is here, it's a really large-scale document management system that lives out there on the cloud, and we always have access to it. It allows people to access things easily, keeps the flow of communication very fast. And then PlanGrid itself is really a module document storage area where we can have drawings at your fingertips. You can walk around with a tablet or an iPad. You're not carrying a roll of 400 drawings on your shoulders trying to see what's going on. So it really allows you to be faster and more accurate as you're moving through the field, which is, all a great process. So with that, as we're rolling through these, we really have a bunch of key priorities that we want to touch on, and first and foremost is safety and security of surrounding areas. We're really maintaining that civic presence, as we talked about earlier, keeping the public separated from the construction. We want to make sure that it's built right too. Quality control is one of our key things, and then making sure that we're staying on track for a schedule. Those are core beliefs that we have, and we strive every project to treat one like it's our home, and that's how we move forward with these things. So really, and as I wrap up here, it all starts with the end in mind. We're always focused on that part where we turn it over to you, and that's how we're resolving issues in a timely manner. We're making sure that punch lists are irrelevant by the time we're getting them. We're already staying on top of them. We're helping with movement of faculty or admin or staff or anything like that as we get to that finish line, and how maybe the prison staff or courthouse is moving around. We want to make sure you're always informed on what we need to do, and then the day that you get to cut that red tape, you're ready to use it, and it's yours to use. So again, I want to thank you, and I'll turn it over here to Audit.
Thank you, Mike. So that's really our presentation, and really the bottom line is we're going to want to make sure there's check marks on all of the priorities we have to make sure we deliver for you. We're very honored to be considered for this project. As we said, we feel we're very qualified. You're talking to 3 licensed professional engineers that are ready to deliver on your behalf. We have over 100 people in the Bethlehem office, and altogether close to 2,000 people ready to provide resources. But the team we've put together for you is specifically based out of Bethlehem and specifically focused on delivering for you. So with that, just wanted to kind of make sure you knew the key team members that are there. We've got knowledge, we've got experience in the public area, and we really look forward to serving you and delivering a successful project for you. With that, I'll have any questions.
Any questions from council members?
We have a copy of the PowerPoint, Mike, a hard copy too, right?
Yeah.
You can have that for
Thank you.
reference for tomorrow. Yeah.
Tom, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Dewey Engineering is now part of CHA, correct? Yeah, we have same people, same office. A bigger organization, integrated into a bigger organization, yeah. Basically, so I was the president of Dewey Engineering for many years, and we decided our growth got too big and we needed to be part of a bigger organization. And so that's what we're doing. The work we're doing hasn't changed. They support it 100%, and we're just still delivering the public work that we've been doing. Yes, sir, and we're still doing that. Yep, yep. Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
council. Yep.
All right, next on the agenda, we have Encore Fire Protection. Received a request from County Executive to adopt a resolution approving a contract for $247,752.38 for Encore Fire Protection. Mike?
So this contract is to entirely upgrade the fire suppression system at the prison, replacing the fire panels, replacing all of the smoke and heat detectors, the duct detectors, the pool stations, as well as the horns and strobes. The current equipment that we have over there is, I believe, 20-plus years. It's obsolete, no longer being manufactured, so it's getting increasingly difficult to find replacement parts. This project was included in the capital budget last year, and we're just looking to proceed with the quote from Kistler O'Brien.
Just for the record, Mike, this is a non-competitive bid sole source?
We're utilizing a CoStar's contract, but we did also get a quote from Johnson Controls, and this was about $40,000 less than Johnson Controls quote.
Questions for Mike on that? Great, thank you. We'll move that forward. Next, we have H&K Group. Looks like this is a contract amendment for $24,000.
Yeah, so this is a change order request. Earlier in the spring, we completed the repaving of the parking lot for the criminal administration building. It consisted of a full mill and overlay of the parking lot there. What H&K found when they milled out the existing pavement was it was basically just paved right on dirt. There was no sub-base to speak of, so what we had to do was lay down some additional 2A modified stone sub-base and repair the soft spots by excavating out the dirt and installing additional stone. When they were driving heavy equipment over it, it was just pumping essentially. So trying to pave over that would have been futile, and the new pavement would have broken up almost immediately. So change orders just to put in the additional stone, repair the soft spots, and cover some overages with the asphalt quantities.
Questions? Okay, thanks, Mike. Our last item on our agenda then is Vision Technologies contract, being asked to approve a contract in the amount of $265,731.48 with Vision Technologies for a disaster recovery refresh. Anybody from the administration to address this?
IT recovery refresh projects that have been ongoing. Steve Barron will be here tomorrow night, and I'm sure could speak to the particulars of it for you.
Questions?
I just wonder where we are in terms of the timeline of the contract with Vision Technologies, because I know we had it, and then it was like, so can we get that information tomorrow night? Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other matters you want to bring up before the committee at this point?
Yes, but no.
All right, if not, then we'll call for an adjournment. Yeah, correct, yeah. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Do I need to reset before my next meeting? 5 minutes. Sorry, Mike.